Like most overlanding trips that I've been on, this one's filled with some amazing sights, sketchy mud pits and off-camber spots, and some completely unexpected surprises. So come along on part 1 of this 2-part series where I travel from Indiana down to land between the lakes for some overlanding. All Things Overlanding is brought to you by Red Arc, Power Management Solutions, Rugged Bound Supply Company, rooftop tents, awnings, roof racks, and more. Overland Addict, premium overland gear. Last US Bag, overlanding bags and equipment. Northology Overland, trips and a monthly overlanding magazine. All of these companies are really amazing, so I highly recommend you click through the links in the description below to learn more about each of them. As usual, this trip begins in Hoosier National Forest. I was able to leave on a Thursday afternoon in July to get a jump start on the trip to Kentucky. I was meeting my buddy Cody, who has a 97 Lexus LX450 with a 3-inch lift and 35s the following morning, so I decided to do some camping the night before and then convoy from there down to land between the lakes. So when it's like 90 degrees and like 80% or 85% humidity, you grill burgers, you take your shirt off. Got a little fan, a little octopus fan like I got here. Put a link in the description below to it. I've had like 4 of these, but this one is actually blows it decent. It's not gonna like knock your socks off, but it's compared to a lot of them, it's way nicer than a lot of them. It blows a lot more air than a lot of them. And it is rechargeable, which is nice. So it'll go for about 4 or 5 hours just on the battery that's built into it, but I usually just plug it into my big battery pack. So that's why I'm using it right now off the battery. I figure then I'll just plug it into my battery pack tonight because it's gonna be hot in the tent. But, you know, got a beer or two, some cheese, got some garlic jalapeno burgers, which is going to be pretty fantastic. Got my Yuko-Ware mess kit, which I'm going to use as my plate. And, yeah, just cooking up some burgers. So these things are going to be delightful. They get them at Kroger. So if you are Midwestern, you have a Kroger, they make these, and it's like, usually it's like $8 for a 4-pack of them, so $2 a piece, which is totally worth it, don't get me wrong. But if you can hold out and watch for them to be on clearance, they're about half price, about $4 for 4 of them. And then I just freeze them. And then when I'm ready to go on a trip, I grab them, I put them in like a Ziploc bag, like 2 at a time, because that's usually how many I eat. Put them in 2 in a Ziploc bag and freeze them, and then throw them in the fridge. And by the time I get to camp, usually they're thawed and they're ready to go. So anyway, just figured I'd share with you. After a super humid, uncomfortable night's sleep, I woke up and got on the road. I was trying to meet up with Cody along the highway, but after hitting multiple closed roads under construction, I told him just to go ahead without me and I'd catch up. We had to make a quick stop in Louisville because Cody had a shop called 5/8 Fabrication building up some custom sliders, and they were going to weld them on prior to our trip. While Charlie from 5/8 Fab finished up the welding, we talked about our plans for the weekend. Once the work was done, we hit the road again so we could get on trail as quickly as possible. Once we get into LBL, we started on some nice, easy 100 roads. Basically, the roads are named as either 100, 200, or 300 series roads. 100 series roads are basically gravel roads with some washouts, maybe some light water crossings. 200 roads may have some off-camber and some mud pits and maybe some more aggressive water crossings. And then 300 roads are kind of a crapshoot. They could have huge off-camber sections, tons of ruts and not a lot of bypasses and deep mud or worse. Since this was our first time here, our plan was to start on the 100s and kind of get closer to camp, where we wanted to camp for the night, and then start to tackle some of the 300 roads in case we got stuck anywhere or it took longer than expected to get through the trails, so that we could hit camp on time. Before we got too deep though, we had a very valuable reminder of why in overlanding you should always try and be cautious, because you just never know exactly what's going to happen. As you can see here, my buddy went across this water crossing in his Lexus, then I followed in my Xterra. I then decided I needed to go back and get my camera, so I thought, oh, this was so easy, I'll just go through it in reverse and watch what happens and how quickly things can go sideways. Now, and imagine if I had been by myself or, anything like that. So you always want to be really super cautious. Also, I'd like to point out that I feel like most people probably would just cut this out and not show you this, but one, it's kind of funny. And two, I felt like it was a valuable lesson where, even someone that's gone on quite a few trips can get a little bit too big for their britches and make some mistakes. So after being recovered from my stupid mistake, we kept going. There were some more light water crossings, which were a lot of fun. There were some washouts that, if you weren't careful, you could definitely, slide down into and possibly do some body damage to your doors or the sides of your vehicle. So you just have to be careful and keep your eyes open and make sure that you are driving smart. So then we finally hit the 300 roads, and this one was the one that took us to our campsite, and we came across this two-wheel drive Ford Ranger with street tires on it. This poor guy said he'd been there for at least 20 or 30 minutes, and he hadn't seen anybody, so luckily we came along, and we helped pull him out and get him turned around and send him back on his way. So, make sure that you are properly equipped if you're going to go on these roads, because you can easily get stuck. The funny thing was that right after where we recovered that Ranger, things started to get tricky really fast. Up to this point, we had been pretty much crawling through everything, so when Cody hit this mud pit, we took it with that same sort of slow approach and quickly realized it was a lot deeper than it looked, since he's on 35s and the 3-inch lift. So after realizing there was no way he was getting out of there on his own, we hooked up the winch and hauled him out. Winch performed pretty well, and it was actually pretty easy to get him out of there. And then we decided to be smart and take the bypass around this so that we could get to camp and start drinking beer.
Straighten them out. There you go. Just come through.
All right, guys, it's the end of day one. We are down in Land Between the Lakes, as you can see. Our campsite's pretty awesome. We are actually on the lake. I am wearing a swimsuit because we just went swimming, and it was delightful after a long day of sweating our asses off. And as you can see, the truck got a little dirty. There were, as you've probably seen in the video already, some awesome water crossings, nothing too deep, but just super muddy stuff. We recovered, and by we, I mean Cody and Alexa in their Lexus LX450 recovered a Ford Ranger two-wheel drive with street tires that got stuck on a 300 road down here in LBL. So that was a lot of fun. But we've made it to camp, and again, we are just, on a little peninsula right on the lake, and it's beautiful. So getting ready to cook dinner, and we will do that, and then I'll be back with you. All right, guys, just wanted to kind of walk you around camp and show you what we're dealing with here. So here's the Xterra, all set up. And by all set up, I mean I popped up the tent. Not going to set up the awning tonight because it's really hot and we don't need it. The sun is going down, so got the cooler open, drinking beers. Got the tent popped up, so we're ready for bed when it's time. But just got out of the water. This is Kentucky Lake over here. So we were swimming in this. We did get hit a few times by some big fish, which was a little strange. But all in all, it was very refreshing after a hot, long day of overlanding, off-roading. You know, as you've seen in the video so far, there were quite a few sort of stuck situations, had to use the winch. I got stuck, which I may or may not have shown you. But if you've seen that, then you know I put it in. But this is where we're at. The sun is starting to go down. You know, Cody and Alexa have their tent set up. The 80 series over there looking really good. Got through pretty much everything today except a monster mud pit. And I bypassed it. So that's how we do it in the Xterra. So anyways, this is camp.